Danny, thank you so much again. I know this is something that I've been looking forward for quite a while.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to know the experience you've gone through the EB2 NIW journey, and today I am very happy to have you here to kind of walk us through your journey and share some useful tips for anyone who might be watching this video. But
Sure.
before I start, this is kind of unrelated to the question, but I just want to say I have known Danny for quite a while. I mean, we went to the same high school together. For any one of you who do not know, who doesn't come from Ghana, the high school we went is the best in Ghana. If you
Oh
want,
my
I'm bluffing
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same high school together, so I've known him for quite a while. Very smart guy, very intelligent and God-fearing. And I'm very happy he has gone through this route, and today he'll be sharing his journey with us. So again, thank you for coming on to share your journey with me, Danny.
All right. Thank you, Richmond, for having me. And I'm excited to be here. I believe there's a good resource for, people out there. And as we do this, someone may chance on it. It might be a great help to them. So I'm excited to be here to share.
Awesome, awesome. I always like to start my content with a little bit of introduction about yourself,
Yeah.
what you studied, what you're studying, and currently what you're doing.
Okay. So my name is Danny Texan. I'm currently a PhD student in economics at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Prior to that, I did my bachelor's in Ghana, University of Ghana, in economics and statistics. And thereafter, I did an MPhil in accounts, also at the University of Ghana, before coming to the US to do my master's at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So I went to Greensboro before going to Chapel Hill, currently at Chapel Hill now. So at Greensboro, too, I did a master's in accounts. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So basically, you're still in school. You are here to
Yeah.
finish your PhD, and you had your NIW approved. Let's kind of talk through what actually made you realize, because I know with as a PhD holder, especially in economics, your job prospect is quite numerous, and of course, if a company is hiring you, your journey to permanent residence is quite easier compared to other field. But what actually was that kind of turning point in your life you decided to, even though you are still in school, pursue EB2 NIW?
Um, I would say a couple of things. Just hearing stories from people and that some of them completed and they were not able to find a job in time. So they had to, they had visa issues. So I was just trying to be forward looking. And I would say I didn't want to go through the process where I'll have a limited job search, relying on employers. And I even heard sometimes they are kind of lottery and you need, an extended time, like your OPT, then 2 years term, or during a year in your STEM before you actually get approved. It might take some time for them to even process all that for you. So I was like, no, I don't need to rely on them. And one other thing was that I also wanted to have an opportunity to have a wider range of job search. So if you don't have a permanent residency before going on the job market, your job search is kind of limited because not all companies are wanting to give you immigration documents and all that. So I was just trying to be forward looking to that to prevent myself being in that state because I had a couple of friends who had to take any job just because that was what was available. And by any job, it's relative, but having gone through a PhD, spent a long time, you expect that your starting point should be at a particular stage, right? So they didn't have a bargaining, should I say, power or instrument on the market. So they were a bit limited in that sense. So I would say what actually got me to think about that is more to be forward looking and to have a good job. Yeah.
No, that's really a good point in terms of you being still in your academic journey, but you're thinking about after school, what are the opportunities out there? And it's always great to learn from people's experience because, like you mentioned, your friend had gone through an experience you don't want to go through. And that was what propelled you to basically do it now versus waiting till you are done.
Mhm.
Out of curiosity, for most of the time, and the information out there, which for me personally, I know is not true, is you really have to finish your PhD before you start this process. In your case, you did not finish. So before you started, and if you might have had any misinformation along that side, what was the greatest motivator that, okay, regardless, I'm going to still put my foot forward and see the outcome of it?
Um, I would say I I started thinking about this in my second year of my master's, because there are people who were in PhDs who were doing it, and people who didn't even do a PhDs, they were working after their master's and they were doing it. So it was something at the back of my mind. And I think this would be a good resource for someone to see because information is really good. You see people put on their WhatsApp status that a group on campus or for international students is having this talk and they're talking about immigration documents, EB2 NIW. Then you start asking yourself, what is it? So that's where it started from. And I started thinking about it's okay, if there's a path to getting a green card so that you have any immigration issues and visa issues moving forward. I started thinking about it then. And so I knew I could have started the process with my master's in Ghana because some people have a foreign master's and they do it. But um, I think I was narrow-minded by then. I was like, okay, I need a master's in the US to be able to do it. So I was just waiting to finish my master's. Then I start thinking about gathering the documents and working towards it. And I would say that wasn't bad. It was good because I built a good relationship with the professors to be able to get me letters. So it's a good period of time to build relationships with people and all that. And yeah, basically that is when I started thinking about it. I'd like to share a couple of situations that literally got me into like, no, I have to do this now.
Please feel free.
So so I would say that the during my PhD, my advisor sent a particular nice opportunity for people in health econ. They'll give you great fellowship. You don't have to do any TA job. They just give you that money over time, and you probably use your time to do another job to get money, right? So they
Wow.
are giving you a fellowship of about $35,000 for the year so that you can just work on your dissertation, just like free money
Wow.
because they assume that your dissertation is something which is going to contribute to the US. So they want you to concentrate and have a sound mind to study. And when she sent it, I filled out the form, did everything. Just about the point I was submitting, they said, are you a US citizen? No. Do you have permanent residency? No. Then you can't proceed. And it was something that really hurt my advisor because something meant for people who were minority, black, So she knew I was going to get it because I was the only black person in my program then.
100%. Okay.
Yeah. So we had to stop. So I was like, no, this thing is actually limiting me. Then I started looking at the profiles of other people getting it. I was like, um, my profile looks, this person just finished masters, doesn't have publication, doesn't have anything, but has it. So what do? You start saying, okay, let me do free evaluations. Then I started looking at the websites of there are a couple of them, I think. I did Raju and I did Ellis Potter. The feedback that came was, oh, that then I think by then I had 10 citations. They're like, oh, you can make a good case. You are good to go. We'll give you so and so money back guarantee. And I was like, this is a good sign.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a good sign. So those were the sequence of events that went on that actually really made me um, put in the application for these EB2 NIW. Yeah.
No, it's always hit back home when there are opportunities you think, oh, I definitely would qualify should I, put in the application. And then there's
Yeah.
that kind of condition. Are you a permanent resident? Are you a okay? Now what? I
Yeah.
can imagine the frustration that went in your head, especially given the fact that in your department, you were the only minority. And of course, definitely you would have gotten like free 35K. Perhaps can
Yeah,
but now I'm having some small money from you.
I know, right?
It's a good learning curve. And I think to everyone watching us, anybody watching us right now, the truth of the matter is having your permanent residency opens up a lot of opportunities. And I keep telling people, yes, the economy is right now is not really good. Like, trust me, a lot of layoffs happening left and right. But when you look at the government sector, there's a lot of jobs,
Yeah.
like good, not just jobs, good jobs, well-paying jobs. And so there's that kind of limit of opportunities if you are still on your current H1B or even OPT. That is why we are advocating for people to take their own permanent residence in their own hands and begin to take action towards it. So this is a good one. So let me quickly ask you, you just mentioned you had 10 citations and you got positive feedback from the lawyers. What other criteria or what other documents was really like the stand out for you? Did you have publications? You mentioned you had 10 citation at that time. What other documentation did you use for your case?
So I would say, let me put them in three main categories. So I would say the first one would be publications. Oh, when I say publications, I don't necessarily mean like publications in top tier journals where, impact factor of, you know, so high, but it was something out there. It was either a term paper that had converted to a publication or a paper I'd written with some of my friends who were in the master's program, or other research I've done with professors which were not officially published, but they were in the form of working paper, like first draft kind of. Yeah, so I would say those were the part of the things. I had publications, and the ones that were out there were, should I say, um, by the time I started thinking about this, I think there were about five of them, and I think two of them were more term paper thesis kind of. So I would say the real publications that stood out were like three. And also I would say I had current research. So by current research, I mean I was actually working on something now, and that is what I use for my proposed endeavor. You might have good past research, which you can put it in another way to say that I'm working in this area and make a case for it that, oh, I've even done this in the past and I'm still in that process. So that is good. But I had different things, like two or three things, and I had to connect them. So I was like, oh, I've done this in the past, set in stone, and I'm also doing this now. So that is kind of the way I directed my proposal. And finally, I also had an opportunity to do some consultation and intern with the World Bank, and I linked it. I really didn't know how to link it, but I read a lot of stuff on what we do, and it's like the ripple effect of the end game of what we are doing. So it's like you just do a little part of something, but you don't really know where it's going. So I just had to read on the website and the whole motive of the project. Then I was like, okay, I'll use this key part of it to link to my
Proposal.
proposed endeavor. So those were the three things. I'll say past research or publications, current one, and the internship with the World Bank. But someone watching me go like, oh, it's because you worked with the World Bank or something. But I would say I had all these things in place, working on my petition letter. And before I even got the World Bank opportunity. So it wasn't even in my mind up to that point. Yeah. So I would say that those were the kind of things I was thinking about then.
Nice, nice, nice. And thinking about how to kind of align your proposed endeavor to a lot of things you've done. So yesterday I had an opportunity to talk to a young man also doing his PhD, specifically in statistics. And the discussion was around, I have done this, I have done that, I am doing this. How do I connect all of these? And my advice to him was, and it happens to, I think, everybody. You just mentioned how you have to think about how to align all of the things you've done in the past to what you're currently doing, to what your proposed endeavor. So it's always about once you sit down to write, and I don't know, maybe it's just personal for me, but once you sit down to write, get things out of your mind, you just realize how things are connecting to each other. And of course, you have to read. Like, for example, you went on the website to see like the end product of what you were going to do as an intern, and
Yeah.
you realize, oh, for this route, it's going to fit into your proposed endeavor. So my advice to everyone out there, think because the biggest thing in this process is your proposed endeavor and how you're able to justify of all of
Yeah.
the wrongs, it checks marks everything. And so that is the biggest work you have to do. And that is where you must spend much of your time trying to understand how what you intend to do in the US is going to influence or have a positive impact on this country. And so it is not going to be easy. It's all about do a lot of research and just
Yeah.
begin to write things down.
And
For now, it's just like
just
drafting things.
Yeah, just to touch on that, having a lot of things and not knowing how to put them together. I would say I also struggled with that because the idea I had about proposed endeavor is that you have to have this thing you want to solve in the US and this problem. So I I also had a challenge. I was like, should I pick this my paper and just write on that, or should I pick that and just write on that? Then I saw this is where other getting extra information help. I always say that get somebody in your situation. So I saw a petition letter by another PhD student who had done so many things in his past before he's doing this current thing. And all the samples I had seen by then, everyone just, starts with chapter one, advanced degree, maybe chapter two, proposed endeavor, then it proceeds like that. But what he did was chapter one, advanced degree, chapter two, proof of successful previous works. Then
Right.
he wrote on those, just like the way you write a proposed endeavor, but he wrote on those and indicated in the end that this work fits into US this way, and it has had maybe one citation. This work fits into the US this way, and it's contributing, things that have not even had citations, it's contributing to this. Before he came to chapter three, current proposed endeavor. So I believe as USCIS agents looks at it, he goes like, okay, this guy has done these two, three things in the past, but now he's focused on this current thing and he's now doing it. So though the things may not fit in together, but they might be in a broader space. So I'll say broader space in a sense that I do more applied economics and I usually specialize in labor and health. But I did stuff that were in like industrial organization, firm theory, and all that. So I was like, okay, how can I fit this together? So I just said, in the proposed endeavor, I just said, I'm an applied economist. I didn't limit myself to health. I didn't limit myself to labor economy. I said, I'm an applied economist that use so and so econometric tools in solving problems in the area of, then I listed my previous work, in the area of researching child poverty, student loan. Then I just said, currently I'm doing something on family system and all that. So those, that is how you can fit everything together. Rather than think of the narrow field you are in as a PhD student, you can say, okay, my field fits this broader scope, which I have done one or two works in it. Then I would say, I'm a person in this broad scope. I have done one or two things in this area, but I'm now focusing in this area. So having a good sample in your current situation would help you be able to write something great. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And from your description, I think we should have like a separate, more like a conversation webinar session where you'll be teaching people how
Okay.
to draft a proposal
Wow.
endeavor. No, because I mean,
Yeah.
I have never thought it that way. Probably because, and we will touch on that briefly because I know you did it by yourself, and I had the opportunity to kind of see the sample and it was perfect. Like I read your the draft what you sent to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, even if I was the person on the other side, here you go. I'm going to approve your case. So it's powerful, and I like the way and the methodology and the steps involved in trying to, bring everything together, regardless of the variety of things you've done.
Yeah.
On the topic of the petition, and I know, like I just mentioned, you did it by yourself. there are school of thought, right? Use an immigration attorney versus do it yourself.
Okay.
What made you do it yourself? Was it the money? Was it like you felt you had enough confirmation, like you mentioned, you had confirmed from lawyers and they approved, like, oh yeah, you got a good case. What was that moment that you're like, okay, I can do this by myself?
So the money was the main factor because some of the lawyers were taking 6K and all that. But
Yeah.
another thing was, I was talking to a friend and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this NIW, and I just did some evaluations with the lawyers, and I'm probably going to, retain with one of them, and they're going to work on it for me. And he was like, oh, so you PhD student, pa. That was a connotation used. PhD student, pa, and you're going to make a lawyer do it for you. I said, oh, it's not hard. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. And I I I was really still struggling till I saw the sample of a PhD student, because all the samples I had from friends were people who had completed school and were working in a particular space and were using their workplace as part of their proposed endeavor.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult for me to say that, okay, you are in school, so what? You can't say, well, I'm in UNC, it is an institution that is focused on higher education. And no, no, no. So once I saw his format, I was like, oh, what we call proposed endeavor is even the parts which he called the proposed endeavor is even less than 1 page. He had like
Oh,
almost three quarters of a page or something. But when the lawyer writes it for you, it's slightly different the format he does it.
right.
Like the lawyer's own will probably be maybe a page and a half or two
Yeah,
pages.
that's correct.
Yeah. But his was like 3 quarters. And I was
Wow.
like, I have my current research I have like 7 pages of current stuff I've written, which describes the problem statement and everything. I can use this for it. So then I just, okay, I'm gonna fit this here, this here, this here, this here. Then I had an idea. So I never wrote a proposed endeavor. I saw the way the lawyers do it. I never wrote a proposed endeavor as it stands alone. Good. So that was how that was one thing that really helped me. Seeing a sample made me go like, I can do this. But because prior to that, I didn't have any guidance. And that was one of the challenges. And also, but going back to the money, I had two options: make a lawyer do it and wait and not do premium and wait, or do it myself and use the lawyer's money to do premium processing. Does that make sense? I was like, okay, looking at the lawyer 5K and premium process about
That's
2,500
yeah,
thereabout.
it's
I was
not, yeah.
like, no, let me just do it myself
I
and
get some
spend
change.
it. Yeah, yeah. So that was the fix. Um, Let me also touch a bit on some challenges I faced, right, during the process. I would say a bit of challenge I faced was that um you may be able to write a petition letter from beginning to end. You see samples, but what you don't see is, now I'm done with the letter. How do I submit it? How do I fill the forms that come with it? How do I put together my package to make it a good one before I send it? And that was where I really struggled. So you see the form. How do you fill the form? Where do you complete? What do you do? So I went on YouTube, tried to look for some other guys, follow their format. And in the end, I filled the form, everything perfect, and I submitted it. So once I submitted it, because it was premium, like 3 days or 4 days later, okay, I would say maybe a week's time, I had in my mail an RFE. Why? I didn't complete a part of the form correctly. So I left some part of the form blank. So I was like, wow, this is an RFE. So I talked to other people who have done it, and they're like, if this is the RFE they're asking you, then it means you already have it. Because the RFE was like, we see that your petition, everything is good, but you didn't indicate the profession in which you are in the
Mm,
form.
I see.
So you have to indicate the profession and the SOC code that comes to the profession. and I left
Oh,
that part blank, right? So that was a challenge. That is the challenge that comes with doing it yourself. So if you don't have someone who would share their, forms with you and tell you that put this on top, do that, do that, do that. That is the challenging because the petition letter is more freestyle. So after correcting that, once they had it, they just approved it. So as soon as they received, they didn't even tell me that they received and they're going to review. They just said you are approved. So that is the challenge that comes with doing it yourself. The forms that you have to fill in addition. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't see it as a challenge. I see it more like a learning curve, right? Like
Okay. Yeah.
now, if somebody brings his or her package or packets to you, you can say, hey, make sure you fill the profession in the
Yeah.
SOC code. Make sure you put,
Yeah.
if not, you're going to get an RFE. So it's a learning curve for you and it's a learning curve for everyone watching that you have to be very detail oriented when filling out this form because again, as long as you put in the good work, your proposed endeavor, everything is spot on. I think for them, as people reviewing, they want to make sure everything is intact. They want to make sure they're able to align, okay, this is your proposed endeavor. What profession are you trying to, match things and stuff like that?
See.
That is a good thing to share with us. Doing it yourself, apart from the challenge of filling out the form, was there a challenge? I mean, okay, let me backtrack and then ask this question. So
Okay.
basically, what was the estimated timeline that it took you to put everything together and then submit for approval?
Okay. Putting things together, I would say started somewhere around the last week of October 2023, and I finished writing everything that concerns my part somewhere around um first week in December.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it took me like roughly 7 weeks, 7 weeks to do everything that concerns that is for my part. But it didn't take me 7 weeks to read about it to start preparing it. So the first time I did an evaluation with Ellis Potter and Rajulo was March 2023.
Hmm. Wow.
So that was when I started thinking about it. And I was like, okay, I see a sample. What did they add? They added their scholarship letters, their achievement, their associations. Then by then I didn't have any association. So I just wanted to join two associations, American Economic Association and Sigma Psi. So I just wanted an association where I can have a letter or evidence to show that I'm part of it and I'm actively involved. So that was it. That was the process. So I was like, okay, let me join these two. I used that period to join the associations. So I think ha have one extra publication, but that didn't even matter. Yeah. So that is the timeline of gathering and putting myself to. But once I sat down to write, it took me like 6 to 7 weeks
Okay.
to
Wow.
finish it.
So at least there's a process where you have to gather all your documentations.
Yeah.
But the actual sitting down to draft your proposed endeavor, put everything together was just like 6 weeks,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
doable.
It's
And
doable.
let me backtrack on something you had mentioned when you told a friend you're going to use a lawyer, and the person like, PhD students, you can do this. In fact, I was thinking about a title for this, so maybe in the PhD students, do it by yourself.
Yeah, do it yourself. Do
Yeah,
it
do it
yourself.
yourself.
Do it.
And
If you can
exactly
if you can write a research paper or dissertation, do it yourself.
that's the point. I
Yeah.
feel like you guys have the tenacity, the skill set already, to be able to do this. It's more like research and putting coherent story together
Yeah.
for somebody to review. So, sorry for going back on that. So, what advice would you give to international students who are looking to go through this route? The truth of the matter is, a lot of them are really scared, just because one, they are misinformed, and two, they don't have the right resources to guide them through this process. But you and I have gone through this process. We know how seamless and easy it is. I remember when you got the approval, you said, USCIS is the manual. So like you submitted and they're gonna approve. No, that is just to say, like, the way we think about the whole process has been complicated, very difficult to kind of even justify your proposed endeavor.
Yeah.
It's very seamless process, let me put it that way. So what advice will you give to people out there who are looking to pursue their permanent residency using this route?
What I want to say to someone watching who is a master student, first year, second year, maybe about to finish, I would say any paper you do in class, any project, it can be something you can make it solid. It can be something which can be a proposed endeavor.
Nice.
And I would also say that start early. Start early. By start early, you see, when I said I did free evaluations, so when I did start doing free evaluations early, so that after some time, when you make progress, you do another free evaluation. Then you see that, okay, initially they said I had 50% chance of getting it. Now they are saying I have 90% chance. Then it means I'm doing something good.
Nice.
So start early and take advantage of every little thing you do. If it's volunteerism, if it's whatever, it can really count and it's going to help you. So those are a couple of things I can say. Just start early. And there's no one way of doing it. If you see someone's petition letter, which says they are bringing a cure for cancer, which seems to be way bigger than your pay grade or what you are doing, just know that you are not in their field. The way they judge a STEM engineering person is different from the way they might judge a social science
Yeah,
individual. So just see what's in your field and write to suit the best in your field. The USCIS agents understand that every field is different.
that's correct.
So they are not going to, you know, review your stuff based on somebody's own. Yeah.
That is correct. No, that is very thoughtful, and thank you for the good advice. And to the point where you mentioned, you don't have to compare somebody's petition. I mean, there are a lot of people who would give out their samples to you. It can be quite intimidating. I remember
Yeah.
when I started my process, I asked few friends to give me their proposed endeavor. I nearly gave up. Like, really? No, honestly speaking, I nearly gave up. I'm like, okay, they are really proving something, and I'm asking myself, what am I really going to prove to these people? Like, I'm bringing on board. But to your point, right? You have to understand everybody's journey is different, and everybody, you know, um, petition will be different and the proposal endeavor will be different. You just
Yeah.
have to be very diligent in what you choose to do and just speak about around it. So that
Yeah.
is a good advice to anyone there. Don't get intimidated. If you do, reach out to people, reach out on LinkedIn, online, find people who have gone through this process. And it's also very important, especially like you mentioned, when you have samples from people within your field, it also gives you a certain form of step ahead because then some of the things you'll be talking about has already been described by somebody who had gotten the approval. So you can just borrow some
Yeah.
words from their
Yeah.
content and use it. And the last part is if you're watching and you're a PhD student, please don't use a lawyer. Save the money. Bring the money to me, Kelly. Bring the money. And do it by yourself. I
It's
think once
yourself.
that you would have enough resources around you,
Yeah.
online everywhere to support your case. We are here to help you. We are here to root for you and make sure like you don't struggle, you don't go through that kind of period where you are missing opportunities because of your status. That is
Yeah.
something you don't want to find yourself or put yourself in that position. So again, thank you so much, Danny. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And before I
Same
forget,
here.
just so you know, Danny and I, when we were in high school, we competed for the same position. And it is
Yeah. And Richmond won it. Richmond won the boys SP. And yeah, and no wonder he's the one inviting me now. Yeah.
anyway, I was just thinking about it and I was laughing. But anyway, Danny, just for anybody who might want to contact you, are you open to receiving people connection and offering you advice? Because I'm sure anybody watching would love to connect, especially if they're in the field of economics. They might want to connect and then talk to you about the process and stuff like that. So how can we
Sure,
reach out
sure, sure.
to you?
They can actually reach out. The best way to reach out to me is on LinkedIn. So just connect and more often than not, I accept almost every connection, except maybe some
True.
connections that don't have a profile picture there. If you don't have a picture there, how can I see? So that I may not connect faster, but once you connect, send me a connection in less than maybe a week, I should be able to connect. And you can just send me a message. If I have input I can help you with. If not, I can just probably direct you to someone who can help. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, definitely watch out for a webinar section. We would have Danny to come talk about how to properly get your proposed endeavor in the state where you feel confident like this is going to be approved and other topics. So
Yeah.
watch out. It's something I'll definitely connect on the backstage and then we can discuss and see how we can make this happen. But again, thank you so much for
Sure.
your time. I know you have a lot to do and I really appreciate it. God bless you so much, my brother. Take care.
All right, Richmond. Thanks. See you.
Thank you. Peace. Bye.